All right, so welcome to our Shop with Doc. I'm Dr. Rosie, and I'm going to go over just general things to look out for when you're shopping. And so I want to start first. So when you come, you try to always come already fed whenever you do any kind of shopping. But also, if you just look at the general, no matter what grocery store you're at, if you stick to the outskirts of the store, you're going to be more prone to not get things that have bad ingredients or too many things added to them. So we try to go to the outskirts of the stores where you have the vegetables and the products like meats and dairy. And so the lines in between typically have box and packages. Even though you're in a natural store, still things to think about reading ingredient lists. So like everything, if you can't read it, don't eat it. If you just stick to that principle of only maybe less than 5 ingredients per package. When you also think about foods in general, the less like sugar it has, the better. And then the type of oil is going to be the biggest changes. So when we ask patients to change what they do, we have a basic plan and we have an advanced plan. The basic plan is just go back to real food versus man food, and the advanced plan is more of an anti-inflammatory healing diet, which gets rid of everything that creates inflammation, which is sugar, bad fats, and toxins. So if we stick to at least starting with the basic plan, it's going back to just getting rid of everything that is man-made, processed, GMO, those kind of foods, genetically modified foods. And the advanced plan is going to be getting rid of everything that creates inflammation, and I said sugar. So at the core plan, you can have sugar, like the basic plan is going to be, we also call core plan. You're allowed sugar, but God sugars. So for instance, the fruit that you find that has a lot of sugar is allowed, but on the advanced plan, you're not going to have a lot of the fruit because there's too much sugar. So you're just going to stick with things like green apples and berries, which are very limited in sugar. On the core plan, when it comes to vegetables, most, of course, are allowed on the core plan. On the advanced plan, because things like potatoes and carrots and those kind of vegetables are higher in starch, you're going to get rid of those to avoid the sugar. On the core plan, like grain is allowed as long as it is, sprouted, 100% grain, non-GMO. On the advanced plan, there's no grain whatsoever. So you get rid of grain altogether, like oatmeal, grain like in bread, tortillas, and all that. And then on the core plan and the advanced plan, both meats are allowed, but as long as they're raised the way they should be raised, with grass-fed sources, wild sources, or free range. And on the fats, for both plans, you want to choose fats that are not altered or turn rancid. So for the most part, you're going to cook in high temperatures with coconut oil, avocado oil. Olive oil is allowed, but not for cooking, and because it goes rancid. And butter is really good too, but not for high temperatures either. So, but you get rid of all the hydrogenated or trans fats that are found, like in canola oil or those kind of things. So that's just a simple summary of nutrition. But now we're going to just walk you through what to do. Of course, I always like going to the vegetables first. The more we can incorporate more vegetables and raw vegetables, that would be very beneficial. We try to always help people understand that, if you can put the food pyramid upside down, like the bottom typically on a food pyramid has lots of carbohydrates and grain. Actually, that should be like all vegetables on the bottom, like, a lot of that kind of stuff. And then the next one up should be fat. You know how typically they tell you stay away from fat, but you want lots of fat. Your body's made to burn fat for fuel. And so you want to have at least 70 to 80% of your diet of fat, but quality fat. So nuts and seeds and good like coconut oil, coconut milk, those kind of things on the bottom. And so don't stay away from eggs. Eggs are really good and beneficial, just as long as they're free-range eggs. Some people get scared by the cholesterol. It's not the cholesterol that's a problem, it's oxidation. So all right, as far as the vegetables here, you can always have a number that is stuck on any store. And so this number right in there, so that is a number 9 for this specific store. All of these are going to be organic, and so they're all going to be 9. But if you go to a regular store, you're going to have different stickers with a number 4 or a number 8. Number 4 means that it has been filled with pesticides, and so you know that is something you want to stay away from, pesticides or any kind of insecticides. And number 8 is genetically modified. So if you're going to get rid of one thing, you would get rid of all the 8s. The number 9 is going to be the one that you're going to want. But if you can't afford all organic, then the whole intent here is to try to understand the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Dirty Dozen is those vegetables and fruits that you buy organic, and specifically with these you want to the ones that you eat the peel, like if you use logic like berries, you would want organic. But if you're going to take the peel out like an orange or a banana, you don't have to necessarily buy them organic. Does that make sense? Okay. So again, core plan, all fruits and vegetables are allowed. Advanced plan to limit the sugar, you're gonna just basically choose berries and green apples. And then for vegetables, get rid of the starches like potatoes, yams. Unfortunately, they're still high in starches. So depending on what. We also call the advanced plan kind of like a ketogenic diet, although ketogenic is a lot more fat than the advanced plan. You're eating a lot of fat. So just several things here. Some of the biggest things that I like about Natural Grocers is that they do have ginger and turmeric, which I really use in a lot of my recipes, specifically for the anti-inflammatory, antifungal, antibacterial properties, anti-cancer. So you want to use these ginger, like herbs, rosemary, thyme, basil. Like in a lot of your recipes, most people use powders. Try to use the real leaves, cilantro, parsley, which have heavy metal like chelation properties. So you want to do that. The other thing is cruciferous vegetables as much as you can. Lots of greens, lots of color to your fruits and vegetables. And then here you have your turmeric, which is what we use for the green juice or for the healing diet, which is in the book, the healing dressing. The healing dressing is a dressing that we use in my recipe book, and also the line one that you got from Max Living has a healing dressing. It's actually my recipe. Dr. B.J. Hardick used my recipe for that, but it's turmeric, ginger, garlic, and I think apple cider vinegar with olive oil, a little bit of stevia, and you whip it up in a blender, and there you go. You have a really good dressing. So the more of these kind of things that you can use instead of powders. People use a lot of turmeric powder, and you want to actually use the real stuff if you can. All right, so then mushrooms here. By the way, I don't know if you guys know the properties of mushrooms. They're reishi mushroom, shiitake. All these are anti-cancer. So again, in any of the stews or things that you do, add some of this stuff. If you can do it, do it.
Fresh mushrooms over here.
Yeah, fresh mushrooms over there. So, but I think that's one of those things people kind of shy away from these things because they don't know how to use them. Well, a lot of the Mexican food that I find in my Mexican Keto book, if you haven't gotten that, we use a lot of these, chilies and mushrooms and stuff. So they're very good for you. So The more you cook at home, the better, because you can put whatever you want. You have your meats here. Again, we kind of try to aim for people to get a good farm or a ranch that you can hook up to. We have several resources at the office, but where you can buy a whole kind of a piece of a chunk of a cattle and then take it to a grocer, because it's a lot less expensive than this. But grass-fed meats is what you want. Again, the grass-fed meat is because you want to make sure that your omega-6, omega-3 ratios are in the right frame. Typically, if you have grain-fed meat, it creates a ratio of a 20:1, which is really high in omega-6, very low in omega-3. That creates inflammation. So the less inflammation, the better. And so then you want to try to, so it's not what your meat, it's not the meat's that bad, it's what your meat eats that's bad. And that's where also what you will see is like bacon uncured. I know sometimes people want to stay away from bacon and seafood like shrimp and oysters and all that. A lot of those are bottom feeders. Once in a while you can maybe have them, but if you're going to have it, then it's going to be uncured. You know, some of these kind of ones without the nitrates. You have the turkey bacon also that's available here. I like for like summer, these grass-fed sausages, which you know, to me, we all like sausage on or polished sausage or cheddar. I like this one that has cheddar and jalapenos, but you can throw them on a grill, and that's always fun for barbecues. Then you have, of course, different cheeses here. I like, again, if you can get the raw cheese, the better, because it hasn't been altered. And so raw cheese is here if you want to grab some of that. Here you have your almond butters. I prefer almond butter than peanut butter, because peanuts, if you know that they have some fungus, unless it's a Valencia peanut butter. And so also you want something that's raw. So when you look for this, I make my own. I just get raw almonds, put it in a processor, then add some cinnamon, a little bit of stevia and sea salt. Then I flavor my own like nut butters. But if you're going to buy it, you want to make sure you pick a raw source. Like Maranatha has a raw one, I think, if you have to again read the label, because these are typically roasted, and so it has to say raw, like raw maple almond butter. But again, then it's a little expensive to buy, so that's why I make my own. So it's up to you what you want to do. You can make your own with some honey and put some cinnamon. I like to spice mine up with different spices and stuff like nutmeg, and just make it just a little bit better. And you can have it on green apple or something like that if you are on the advanced plan. So
now, on that, they used to have it down here, but they have it in the center aisle now, the almond butter. Is that raw? I'm trying to think if that's raw or not.
Show me whenever we get there.
When we get there,
okay,
yeah.
So then there's ice creams and stuff like that. I enjoy this brand, Coconut Bliss, which is right there. That's very few ingredients, but even one that I've really liked a lot is this avocado base, because it actually has less ingredients in the Coconut Bliss, but avocado frozen dessert here that is really good with cacao powder of with chocolate or different flavors that they have here. But I like this one a lot. It is going to taste a little bit like avocado, so. But when you look in my Mexicano book, I have also the chocolate pudding that's made from avocado and coconut milk and coconut oil, and I don't know if you guys have seen that recipe, but we have it on there. I like to get frozen berries here because I make a lot of smoothies, and so typically I like them to be cold, the smoothies. So in June we're going to do a smoothie talk, just different kinds of smoothies that we make. And you can join us there, but you have blueberries, you have raspberries, so also they're not always in season, so organic berries is what you do want organic. As far as like nuts, flowers and stuff like that, I like this section here because you can get your coconut flour, almond flour. I also use a lot of arrowroot for some of like the pie crust to stick it together. you want something like a xanthan gum or arrowroot, but it's stick stuff. Even when I make my like a deodorant, my own deodorant, I use arrowroot. So you have that as well here somewhere. I don't know, do you find it? Oh, here it is. So arrowroot baking soda for your personal hygiene ingredients. We just had an essential oil class where we showed people how to do that kind of stuff. So, but you also have other things too, like all-purpose baking flour, which that's gluten-free. Most of the time people say, well, I want gluten-free. I shy away from just gluten-free. I would say stay grain-free, because even just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean it's healthy for you. This whole marketing scheme of gluten-free has become an issue where people think, oh, it's gluten-free, it must be good for you. It's still grain, so get away from grain if you can altogether. Almond flour is what we use whenever I make my crepes. If you've seen my videos on Facebook, I'll make my crepes with like egg whites and almond flour, and then add a little bit of stevia. So we keep doing that. So, all right. Instead, like in the summer, sometimes people want like chocolate covered strawberries. I like this brand here, Lily's dark chocolate, because there's no sugar added. So I'll melt some of these bags and get some chocolate covered strawberries done. So this one, what I love is that if you're on the ketogenic diet, when you look at the sugar, it's the net carbs of sugar you want to look at. So it says carbohydrates 9, and then it has fiber 4 and sugar 0. So no sugars, and then you take away the 9 by the 4 to get a net carb of only like 5 or 6 grams per serving. So this is really good on a ketogenic diet. If you are going to have your kids have marshmallows, this is not advanced plan. This still has sugar, but it's at least cane sugar instead of all the corn syrup and all the bad stuff they use for marshmallows. Again, maple syrup is what you would want if you're on the core plan. Otherwise, advanced plan, you wouldn't use this. I actually get berries and put them in a saucepan and mush them up, and then put them over my crepes with some heavy cream and do that. So honey, again, you want to try to look at anywhere you go to get local honey whenever you can, because you'll get the properties from the flowers blooming that will help us with whatever immune system issues we have in that local area. And then as far as sweeteners, again, if you're on the advanced plan, you would want to stay away from anything that raises your sugar levels. So stevia and xylitol are the ones that we consider, and also erythritol. Understanding that these two are still sugar alcohols, so they may cause a little bit of sugar upset, stomach upset, because some people can't process the alcohol. But this comes from birch tree. This is still unaltered, so it's keto diet friendly, but used more in the baking aspects of so when you're gonna like sweeten liquids like a coffee or lemonade or tea or anything like that, yogurt, if it's plain yogurt and you want, I use the stevia. I like to use either new stevia without alcohol, so this one alcohol free, because it hasn't been altered, or the sweet leaf stevia up here is another option that I use. Swerve is another one that people use for people who are on the ketogenic or advanced plan. So it's erythritol. So this is another brand that's all right. And then also monk fruit, which I'm not, oh, here it is. Monk fruit is another sweetener that's allowed on the ketogenic diet. So it comes from monk fruit, but it's very low in glycemic index raised. So some people like things, when I use xylitol, I typically I'll do it like in pecans that I toast in butter for a little bit, and then I'll put the xylitol and the cinnamon. I don't know if you guys have tried that, but it's a really good treat. So as far as like sausages in the morning, sometimes we want turkey sausage or something like that. So you have Applegate that has these right here that are no antibiotics, and it's something that sometimes you want to have with eggs and slices of avocado, so you can have those. There's some more grass-fed meats here, and then we have, of course, different breads. If you are grain-free, they do have these almond flour tortillas that I think they're in another section, which I'll point you to when we get there. But here you have udis that are gluten-free. Again, I'd rather you be grain-free, so they don't have grain-free here. They do have millet and chia, so these still have some grain, but they're organic. And Ezekiel bread is a core plant as well. How you heat these things up, and again, all these are here because they have very little ingredients, so they're not as preserved. They're organic, they're sprouted, so very good on the core plan. On the advanced plan, you wouldn't have that, but the way I heat it up is you never use a microwave, you throw out your microwave, but you use a cast iron pan, you put some butter on it, and you warm it up on the cast iron. But you do want to thaw it out and put it in the fridge, so it's still frozen, you thaw it out. So you do that. All right, so then I'm going to move towards this section here. So most of the time people want like pastas or stuff like that. I do like sometimes this kind of, I can find it right here, yeah. So you have the brown rice pasta, but you also have the lentil pasta. I'm not sure if I'm seeing it here. There's some pasta that doesn't have any grain whatsoever, and it's made out of lentils. And can't seem to see it. So it doesn't even have, like this one's like organic brown rice, so it doesn't have per se, it still has rice, so it's still a grain. But there is some lentil pasta that has, I think it may be this one, organic, super, so it still has grain. Yeah, I don't know if they have it, so sorry about that, but I think the Boise Co-op and Whole Foods has the lentil pasta. But I'll typically have the boys eat something like that. They're off of grain as well, my kids are. And then I'll make my own pasta sauce, but oh, there it is. Black bean, but they have one with lentil. I've never had the black bean. The lentil one is very good. And then again, you can get a can of this. Now this still has sugar, but it's not it's cane sugar instead of corn syrup. But it's just the quantity. I still put some ground beef, grass-fed ground beef in it, some mushrooms. I'll add some thyme, some rosemary, like all the Italian seasonings that you put there. You add more stuff to it, and garlic. I even add more garlic while I'm cooking this stuff and heating it, so we can add more of the natural spices to it. So. As far as canned foods, again, if you have to and need to, like broths, these are the organic sources. I try to stay away from canned foods, but sometimes you want that quick, like noodle soup or whatever. I don't give my kids noodles, but for those people who do want options, these are it. So I won't focus too much on that. So. If you are going to have rice, I would recommend that you buy wild rice. Wild rice is very beneficial for you, but again, once in a while. If you're on the advanced plan, you wouldn't have too much of this, again, because it's still grain. So quinoa is another question I get. Quinoa is still considered, like, they say it's not a grain, and some people, but for the advanced plan ketogenic, we still stay away from it because it still has too many carbohydrates. So, okay, and then here in this section, you have your teas and your coffee. Sometimes people want like organic coffee. I, prefer Sumatra. I don't know if they have that that brand here. I've never shopped for coffee here, but this one right here is actually one when people want to get off coffee, but they still want the kind of like the taste of coffee. This is actually alkalizes you. This is made of chicory root and carob, and you can still brew it like you would coffee, but it doesn't have caffeine. It's non-caffeinated, so it's not decaffeinated, What I mean, if you have decaffeinated coffee, it's actually bad for you because they take out the caffeine with tannins, which are carcinogenic. So if you are going to want no caffeine, you want non-caffeinated, meaning it's coming from herbs. So this is all herbs, and alkalizes you because it actually has antioxidants because of the chicory root and the carob. And so you would use that. As far as teas, again, trying to choose organic sources of teas. I would choose, again, there are so many tea companies that have still been bought by Monsanto that basically have a lot of GMO stuff in it, so make sure you research that. But here are the teas. We like this brand here, pretty like potent, but very good green tea. I would really suggest you get on a good green tea on a daily basis. So, all right, so I'm gonna move this way. So they have some chips here. These are actually the ones that I recommend on the advanced plan. These are no grain chips. And so you can still have your chips, but they're made out of cassava, and they're made with avocado oil, which this is very hard to find like on Fred Meyer's or anything. Typically here, the Boise Co-op or Whole Foods, if you shop in Boise. So these, if you like Doritos, this would be more of the flavor that you would get there. And so the ranch, so they're all pretty good. All right, so as far as dressings, I like to make my own dressings. Again, the more live food that you get, the better. These typically have all the oil, so let me just pick up whichever. And so that's why you still want to read. So the first ingredient is canola oil. So that's why you always want to, just because it's here doesn't mean it's healthy. So, and whatever is the first ingredient is the one that with the greatest quantity on here. So you put that down and you keep looking. That's why I know what I put in my dressings. I like to make them at home, plus it's live food, and you'll actually, when you do the healing dressing, you'll get the garlic, the turmeric, the ginger, you'll get that zesty kind of enzyme feeling. Over here is your, I'll move out of the way for you. You have your oils that I like to cook with. Again, ketogenic diet is very high in fat, and that's what you want. You want real fat, and coconut oil is going to be the main thing that you're going to have as a staple. I like glass jars versus plastic jars, just to let you know, just because it leaches. Even if it's a BPA plastic, it still leaches something, so you want glass jars. But the other kind of fats that are very good is like duck fat and beef tallow. So like grass-fed beef has really good fat, and so you'll have the beef tallow, avocado oil. It's still good. Like if you don't like the coconut oil taste, you have the avocado oil here that's also very good for cooking. And then you have these right here that are the like olive oils, which are very good, but you don't want to cook with them. And then they're always like in brown cans, so like they don't get oxidized. So that's what you find here. And then down in this section you have your apple cider vinegar, which is very beneficial. It's anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, so you want your apple cider vinegar as a staple for even that dressing that we make.
What about balsamic?
Balsamic is fine as long as you look at the sugar. So sometimes if you look like right here, sugars too, so that's pretty good. Sometimes they add more sugar to it. So you're gonna make your own, you would wanna make sure that it has less sugar. So, all right, so then you have like tuna. Sometimes people wanna know if they can still have tuna. And sardines. I love sardines, by the way, again, wild. As long as you're with wild tuna, you're gonna get less of the mercury that's found in most tuna sections where it's not wild, and you get the mercury from that. But actually the worst mercury, if you guys don't know, it's your amalgams, fillings, and your vaccines. So, hey Laura, how's it going? And so, oops. All right, so then we have olives. Of course, I love to add olives into everything, Kalamata olives, so you have that there. I'm not gonna go through all the little details here. Hopefully you guys know this. And so, all right, so move on to this section here. You have different coconut milks here. This is by far the cheapest brand right here, and it's still organic, and it's still like doesn't have like it's a BPA free can, so you want to choose you know, this brand if you're at natural grocers. Otherwise they typically have this brand or that brand, but as long as you know, if you choose this brand here, again, this is not organic. Spend your money where you can, you know, but try to not go with the light coconut milk. You want the real fat. Again, you want high fat. So skim milk, all that kind of stuff, it's taking away the fat. You want the real, the fat in the coconut milk. So, all right, so then, and it's everything opposite of what you've always heard. So a lot of the curries and all of that stuff are made with coconut milk, but we add it in the smoothies. We add it in a lot of our stuff. So, and then as far as like salsas, make your own, guys, if you can. I mean, but they have the organic stuff here. I'm not going to go through much of that. I like to use sometimes these kind of packets up here for they don't have for a dressing that I make. Sometimes you want, but again, these are organic. So let's say you want to have more spices, but you don't necessarily want to take the time to get the garlic out and stuff. Then use at least the organic spices, and then these are already pre-packaged for you. And you always want to look, are they adding any like MSGs, which these typically don't have the MSGs in it. So you're fine with some of this. So sometimes I'll take like Nancy sour cream organic, and then I'll add the ranch spice, and then just mix it and make my own ranch dip, you know, or spinach artichoke dip with I'll add some of the packets and like that. It's quick. I don't have to, you know what I mean? It's just quick and easy. So, all right. So then looking on this, this is one of the ones that I do have a lot with the advanced plan, is this cracker here called Mary's Gone Crackers. It's a flaxseed cracker. It still has some carbohydrates, so you don't eat the whole box, but it's no grain. So it's made out of flax seeds and a little bit of brown rice. So you can use like this for hummus or guacamole or stuff, or the chips, the no grain chips that we talked about over there. But sometimes you want like a crispy cracker. This is the one I like. And also they have different flavors, like the everything like seed here. So the rest is all just grain and lots of junk. So I don't really like any of this section. And let's see. Hi, how are you? Good. So here with that Lily's, and why I like Lily's is because when you look at hummus, typically most of them are made with kind of like bad oils, like canola oil. So Lily's has olive oil, and you can make your own hummus. I mean, of course, that'd be the best thing, using fresh ingredients, garlic and stuff like that. But Lily's is typically the best brand as far as the one that doesn't have bad oils. And so the tortillas that I mentioned that don't have grain are these almond flour or cassava. I use these for like quesadillas for my kids, so I'll use raw cheese, do that, some avocado inside, and do a quesadilla. Very simple to make. We'll you know, use, if you are going to have some corn tortillas, these are for the taquitos. If you are on the advanced plan, it's not allowed, but it's still non-GMO, and so these would be the ones that you would want for that. I like this salsa, by the way. I'm Mexican, so I know what salsa should taste like. This is a really good brand, and this one's mild, the one with a little boy and a hat in it, but really good salsa with those grain-free chips. So that's so you don't have to make your own there. That's a good tasting one. And then as far as like, see, like these have wheat in it. So again, it's organic, it's non-GMO, but still have wheat and grain. So if you're in the advanced plan, you would have this one. But I'd rather use, and how do you heat this up? Is you get a cast iron pan, and again, put a little bit of either coconut oil on the pan just so it could soak it up a little, because they do get a little brittle if you don't put a little bit of oil in it, and then you heat it up until it gets kind of brown and bubbly, and then you turn it over, and then it kind of like a tortilla. But you don't put it in the microwave. You don't use microwave ever. So as far as soft drinks, like sometimes people want to get off of pop. These Zevias are sweetened with stevia. That's why they're called Zevia, and it's an option. I'd rather you just get off pop. You know, if you don't have to have it, you know, if you don't need it, just throw it out. Just like don't even add more stuff. If you do want like zest sometimes, what I recommend is a kombucha drink. Sometimes people want pop because of the zest. I think this is actually one thing you should add to your diet. This is a probiotic kombucha drink that is fermented. So the fermentation will cause that fizz in your mouth, kind of like if it's a pop. But it is fermented, so it has a mother there, which is a mushroom that it ferments. And you know, I like ginger the most because even the sugar content is very low. It only has 6 grams for the whole bottle, though. You would not have it all at one sitting, but maybe half and half. And so if you choose like other ones, sometimes like if you look at this one, I don't know, like sugars right here, it has 8, so this is not bad, but always look at the sugars, okay? If it has more than 6 per the whole thing, or per serving more than 4 or 5. Remember, on a ketogenic diet, you want to keep your carbohydrates for about like maybe 20 to 50 grams. But when you start adding all these things, it can add too much sugar, okay? So I know I'm going quick, and ask me questions, and just, you know, don't feel just because we're recording that we can't, we can always edit things out. But all right, so then I'm gonna bring you this way. In that section and over here, you have nuts. Raw nuts is what you're gonna want. Again, they keep them in the fridge, again, because you don't want oxidation of nuts. Always keep your nuts in the freezer if you can. If you notice, like sometimes when you have some pecans and it tastes kind of like rancid, they oxidize. So that once they're out of their shell too, once they're deshelled, they oxidize with light and stuff. And so try to keep them in dark, cool places. Hey, how's it going? And so then I love whenever I see patients from a long time ago still shopping here. It's so cool. All right, so kefir is another option for yogurt. I like it because it's drinkable. We use this here. This is plain. It's no sugar. It's made from goat milk. And what I love with this is like berries and like some nuts in the morning. Sometimes I want the cereal kind of, you know, if I want some of that, I have this with berries, nuts. I'll put some chia seeds, some cacao nibs, which adds some of the crunch and very good antioxidant. It's like little beans of cacao. Like, I don't know, I'll show you when we go to the seed section, but you add some of that even to smoothies is really good. So that's another one. Very, again, high in probiotics. So I like this one here. As far as eggs, we want free range eggs. Again, if you can find a local farmer where you can get them cheaper, that'd be better. But free range, if you look at it, sometimes it'll say vegetarian fed. So that means that they still give them corn. Chickens are supposed to eat insects, and so you don't want vegetarian fed. You want free range eggs. So, all right, so then I'm going to go to this section here. Milk. Oh, yeah, milk is a big controversy with milk. Which one should I have? There's layers, and it's a class in itself. But if I would do like the best milk would be coconut milk. Okay, almond milk. Then the next one would probably be raw milk if you want to go into dairy. But if you don't want dairy, then it'd be the other ones. I don't do soy milk, of course, that has lots of estrogen. Rice milk still has lots of sugar and grain. It's grain, you know. So, and then the next thing after raw milk would be organic, half and half, or organic cream. And then, you know what I mean? So there's layers of what to do. If you're gonna buy just the regular kind, don't buy the skim and 2%, buy the full fat milk, like with all of them. Because again, there's the fat that you want from that. So that like the raw 100% fat would be the best. You're not gonna really find raw milk in these places because they can't sell them for human consumption. Supposedly you're not supposed to have it, but you're fine. It's just you're gonna get them more like at a farm. So you also have some creamers that are like almond milk and some of like these. So this is what I want you to look out for. If you look at the ingredients, you can barely read it, but if you see all these kind of things, maltodextrin, I would already put it down because some of these brands, they add preservatives. So again, less than 5 ingredients, but even some of it I would not have. So now let's take this one here. So then this one, the ingredients, almond milk, cane sugar, so it still has sugar added to it. So I would say go with a non-sweetened one. Calcium carbonate, sunflower lecithin, sea salt, potassium citrate, natural flavors. Natural flavors right there, sometimes they substitute that name for other bad stuff, so I would put that down. So just because it's here doesn't mean you still want to look at the ingredients. That's why I like the coconut milk in that can, and then you just water it down or you add more stuff to it. Anytime they use these kind of like plastic bottles too, they use carrageenan, which is so it doesn't cake up. So it's another bad ingredient. So it's kind of tricky, and you start kind of seeing it's like, that's not worth it. I'll just either make my own almond milk or have coconut milk, or so it's just one thing at a time. Just one. This is better than getting pasteurized milk at, Walmart or whatever, So, all right. So sometimes people ask me about Perrier and like carbonated water. So since it's here, I'll talk about it. I sometimes would do this once in a while, but carbonated water will create acidity in the body. So it creates where your body tries to buffer your pH, and so it pulls calcium out of your bones to buffer it in your system. So I would stay away from carbonated water. I mean, once in a long time, it's not going to kill you, but just try to limit the amount. So this way. So again, they have some other options. Goat milk is another option instead of dairy milk. Goat milk is actually easier to digest for most people than dairy milk. And if you are going to have dairy, try to choose a grass-fed milk per se, because it's not going to be grain-fed cows are what's creating the issue. Again, we talked about that earlier. Like if you want to use cream, don't use coffee made, of course, try to use whole cream. I make my own whipping cream with this whole cream, and if you have one of those mixers, that's really easy to make. I'll take strawberries and berries and make my own cream at home, and then just have it like dessert, you know what I mean, just with a couple of sprinkled slices of almonds on top, and that's my dessert sometimes. So when I make my cheesecake, I'll do the frosting with just actual whipped cream that I make. So, all right. So then this right here, I know that sometimes Boise Co-op also has these right here. So they'll use, again, non-pasteurized milk, but in fresh, but it's still, I think that, I don't know, I still think it's better than most milk. I would still use a grass-fed sources because I don't think these are grass-fed. I like, again, this is a plain yogurt, just like the kefir. This is the same brand, the goat milk from that same brand. And again, yogurt, you got to be careful. You can pick whatever other yogurt, and you look at the sugar. Like this little bottle here has 9 grams of sugar. So that's a lot of sugar for a little container. So plain yogurt, sweeten it with stevia, add some nuts and berries, and there you go. So lastly here, butter. I know that Kerrygold has been bought, unfortunately, but this would be a better option. Grass-fed. Am I on your way?
Oh, no.
Okay. So as far as butter, you want a grass-fed source. Unfortunately, this supposedly has been like a company that's been now kind of like, they say it's grass-fed, but sometimes they lie to you. So I don't know. Just do the best you can. Just don't do margarine, okay? So that's one of those things. You can try to be all like perfect, but you're never gonna be, so you do the best you can. Fermented foods, I love adding like kimchi. You guys know as far as the gut issues that most people have is because of the microbiome being so messed up from all the antibiotics, so you want to add more probiotic foods. So making your own sauerkraut or kimchi at home would be the best, but if you want, some of this is already pre-made. You have also sauerkraut down here. You have fermented pickles. I love gut shots. This I take like 2 or 3 gut shots. I like the spicy Korean, but it's for like if you have gut issues, gut shots is the one to have calm your, again, this is all just probiotics. So if you guys don't know what kvass is like a fermented beets, and then they take the juice and this is basically what gut shots is made out of. Very good stuff to heal your gut. And I think that's mainly, did I tell you about the grapeseed veganase? So mayonnaise, the biggest problem with mayonnaise is the type of oil they use, like typically canola oil. Like even if you pick this one, soy-free veganase, it's dairy-free, but if you look in the back, it'll be using sunflower oil. So veganase, grapeseed oil, what's beautiful with this one is made with grapeseed. So you want to stay away from like canola oil, sunflower oil, grapeseed oil. So I like this brand here with the purple label. And let's see, what else can I tell you? As far as bars and stuff, I stay away from most of them because they still have lots of sugar and grain. I make my own. I don't know if you guys know, even in the Align Your Health, in my Mexi-Keto, I have my almond bars with chocolate, dark chocolate on the outside and almond butter on the inside. You can look for that. But also, they're very simple to make. You just melt the dark chocolate, the lilies, and you put it in the little cups. You freeze it. And the almond butter, like I told you, that I make it. I even put a scoop of vanilla protein powder in the filling, so it can have some protein in it, and it's like a delicious dessert bar. But you use coconut oil. Just follow the recipe. The protein that's in there, and you can find it in my Mexi-Keto book at the office. But it's one of those things that then you top it off with chocolate again, and then you put it in the freezer, and it's like an almond bar. It's really good and tasty and easy to do. So yeah, so if I were to choose protein bars, and I like Primal Kitchen. The only problem, they're a little sticky on the teeth. That's the only issue. But this one, if you look in the back again, you want to look at ingredients first, beyond everything. So this one has prebiotic tapioca fiber, almond bovine collagen, which is very good collagen if you can get it, nuts, macadamia nuts, cashews, pumpkin seeds, egg whites, honey, eggs, natural flavors. Again, we don't know what really is in that, but very, you can read them all. Monk fruit to sweeten it, rosemary extract, so pretty good ingredients, okay? Then you look at the sugars. So sugars total is only 3, so that's actually very low in sugars, which is what you really want. Carbohydrates is 14 grams, but when you look at net carbs, it's going to be like 13 grams. So this is a good brand here. I like this. It's just the only complaint I have with it is pretty like sticky on the teeth. So you just have to drink lots of water with it, which is not bad if you're going to drink more water. So
What about protein powders?
protein powders, you
right on
know,
the other side.
yeah. So we'll go over there. So I typically stick with, if I were to choose one from here, I would choose one we carry in the office, which is this one right here, bone broth protein. I know that Dr. Axe is a friend of mine. He just put out a line that's actually organic bone broth protein, which is the one I would start choosing from here on out. Because in the past, the bone broth protein didn't mean that it was organic. So now they're getting it from organic sources. So again, what I love about bone broth is that it has not only the protein, but the collagen, glutamine, all these good beneficial properties for the gut flora. SFH, which they don't carry here, they don't allow it in stores, it's only sold by doctors, is the whey protein I recommend, which is the one that we have in the office with the white thing that has grass-fed, no hormones, all the kind of stuff. There are only 2 ingredients, and it's not been altered. Like most proteins, like if you take anything, it's been isolated. They take it and they chop it up and they alter it. With SFH, they don't alter it. They don't isolate it. They basically just dehydrate the whey, and it's grass-fed. But if you want bone broth protein, this is like the one we carry at the office, which later on I'm going to get the organics one that he just came out with. So, and then again, if you look at this, if you look at the sugars, again, always the ingredients first. That's where you go to. So you go organic chicken protein, we'll check. Organic chicken broth protein, check. And then you go to sugars, 1 gram. So that's like where you go. I'm just going to pick up whatever over here. I don't know. Typically in big canisters like this, like Costco, you know, sells like, it's like, okay, what's in this stuff? And they typically have all this stuff. Okay, whey protein concentrate, xylitol, that's not that back of cow, natural flavors, who knows, and that's whey protein hydrolysate, whey protein isolate, organic stevia leaf extract, I don't know. You know, it just kind of, to me, it always seems fishy. You know, like typically whey protein to get it in good sources, you don't get it. But if it says grass-fed whey, you're pretty good. You're doing better. But choose, like this never said grass-fed, but maybe this one says, well, that's a better source. So look for those words, grass-fed if it's whey, no hormones added, no like sweeteners that are bad, like maltodextrin. And sorry about that. Just make sure that you look at the sugar content if it does have sugar in it. Okay. So yeah, I'm not going to do, of course, the vitamins and all that today. I'm just doing on that. So all right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming, guys.